Then you need to think about your audience. So, I mean, the first question is your audience online? So for most of us, yes, to a certain extent. Are they using social media? Again, particularly in Ireland, an awful lot of them are. I mean, 1.9 million people in a country with a population of sort of 4.5 million people, that is a very large chunk of our audience. And it's a pretty even demographic split as well. So then you need to think about, well, what is it that my audience use this technology for? So if we go back, even though I've said it's fallen over, but think about it. If we say that Forrester's ladder still exists in some way, shape or form, do my audience carry around video cameras, and are they likely to upload them to YouTube? So if I'm talking to 60-year-old, if I'm trying to sell Stanner stair lifts, maybe doing a YouTube video upload competition isn't necessarily the best idea in the world, and yet it's often one that creative agencies come out with. I don't know why, but anyway. So make sure that your creative message and your execution is in line with what your consumers would be willing to do. We want as few barriers to entry for them to get involved in it with our activations as possible. So there's a great example here, and I apologise if you've seen it before because I certainly use it quite a lot, but I just think it shows a very clear understanding of what consumers are using social, or particularly Facebook, for, and therefore how we can integrate our interests with theirs, how we can make the most of that. Very pure insight in terms of, well, not even insight, just an observation of what is it that people are using Facebook for and how can we align our interests with that. I should add, before everyone runs off and decides to do something similar, they actually broke Facebook's terms and conditions doing that, so the whole competition was removed. So you can't do that. You can't run competitions through a personal profile, and you can't run competitions that don't exist in an application. So yeah, you'll get taken down. So then you need to think about your approach. So how are you going to approach this? And this covers kind of two things. How are you going to approach it in terms of logistically? How are you going to manage it? How are you going to set it up? Which, where does your website fit into this? Where does your YouTube account, where does your Facebook account? We have all these different profiles, and we need to make sure that they're managed efficiently and in a way that makes sense for us and for our consumers. But also, and we're all aware of this, sometimes consumers don't do what we'd like them to do. And so a lot of people, I think, don't get into social because they're worried that people will say bad things about them. Now, of course, they'll say bad things about you, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or not. You just might not know about them. But if you are going to enter this space, there are things you can do to try and limit the damage. And there's an idea called choice architecture, which is a book which was actually originally written about public health, and David, it was in a book called Nudge, and David Cameron has a whole department in the Cabinet Office devoted to Nudge, but don't let that put you off. It is actually a really good idea. And essentially what it again means is, what can we do to incentivise people to make the right decision? So rather than punishing them for making the wrong decision, what can we do to incentivise them to make the right decision? So a very simple example would be, rather than speed cameras where people think that half the time there's no film in it, and so they'll try and get away with speeding, actually when you have the thing that flashes up your speed and a smiley face, or a sad face if you're speeding, that works much more effectively than a speeding camera. So what does that mean for marketers? Well, so firstly, in terms of the approach, in terms of how you manage it, like I said, you need to decide where does your social profile fit into your broader digital universe. So you probably still have a website. So this is what we've done for Links in the UK. So you probably still have a Links website. Now, is that going to be the centre of your your activity, or is it going to sit on the periphery? Well, with links and the audience they have, 15 to 18-year-old guys, Facebook is where it's at. So there's no point spending thousands of pounds or thousands of euros trying to drag them off somewhere else where they don't want to be. Links can do a very good job of sort of providing the more mundane information. So we'll have Facebook at the middle. We'll use paid media to drive people towards that. We'll use things like Flickr and YouTube to pull in content, and then we've got all our own assets and the pieces of content we provide. So you need to sort of think about what that looks like for your brand. And then in terms of trying to think about how you're going to make consumers make the right decision, I've got an example of how not to do it and an example of how to do it. So this is a couple of years old now, but it's still oh so true. So Skittles, a couple of years ago, made some would say brave, courageous, downright stupid decision to change their homepage so that it was a live feed of whatever anyone was saying about them on Twitter. And I've seen the guy come up with the idea, and he said that he honestly thought that people would just say how lovely Skittles were and how great they tasted. Now, probably no surprise to you or any of us, actually people spent most of the time filling it with swear words. So all these little grey bits is where I've had to blank out the language because I thought it might be a family audience. So there was no reason for anyone to say anything nice about Skittles, whereas if they said something nasty, they could take a screen grab, send it to their mates and get a cheap laugh. So there's more value to them to say something negative than there is to say something positive. Now if you look at Walkers with their Choose a Flavour campaign, you would think the same thing might happen, because here we go, here's the great British public, and they can get a chance to put dog turd flavoured crisps onto the supermarket shelves by submitting them and getting all their mates to vote for it, because that's what we do, right? But of course, Walkers had a very simple incentive. Whichever flavour won the prize got a percentage of profits from the sale of that brand of crisps. So it was, of course, in my interest to send something funny and entertaining and popular, but not something that's not going to sell, because then I won't be able to retire on the proceeds of Builder's breakfast crisps. So just think about why consumers would want to do something that's in your interest and try and make it easy for them. And then, of course, you need to analyse whether things have worked. So there's a lot of people have said that you can't measure the success of social media activity. I think it's just because a lot of people don't necessarily set objectives at the beginning, so they don't know what the success looks like. The IAB have come out with a nice framework for analysing this, and you can find it very easily. Just Google IAB social media measurement. But essentially, you establish your objectives, your intent, so your aims. Then you define your core metrics, both soft and hard. So they break them down as awareness, appreciation, action, and advocacy. Now, any of you who have Mindshare clients, I'm sure will be familiar with the Mindshare view of the consumer journey, and we have seek, involved, act, and share. And that kind of meets with seek is awareness, appreciation is involve, action is act, and advocacy is share. And there are soft and hard KPIs you can use for both. And their writing's far too small for any of you to see that, but believe me, it's very interesting and very intelligent. So it does allow you to measure the success of what you've done and decide whether it's worked, and therefore how you need to iterate as you go forward. So I would encourage you, it's from the IAB in the UK, and it's a really good piece of work, and I'm sure the IAB in Ireland, I don't know if Suzanne's here, I'm sure that she would, she is, I'm sure she would back up the fact that it's just a really nice platform when you're looking to measure success. So to conclude briefly, try and keep on time. Yeah. So, social, and I guess really the web is the new mainstream, and the web is now social. I mean, I think the phrase social media, in fact, is one that hopefully we can kill off, sort of take it around behind the back of a shed and quietly put it down in the next couple of years, because essentially it's more about the interactive web now, and I think that the mobile is going to become a huge part of that. We should concentrate, I think, on user-shared content, not user-generated content. So don't expect the users to create the content for your ad campaign, because 9 times out of 10 they probably won't. But make it easy for them to share your ad campaign. Make it easy for them to make the right choice. Pick the tool for the job, not the job for the tool. Don't decide you need to be on Facebook and then try and work out what it is you're meant to be doing, but decide what it is you want to do and therefore where the right place is. And it probably will end up having a Facebook element, particularly in this market. And most importantly, of course, because, let's be honest, marketing isn't a real job. Have fun. Thank you very much.